What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on my channel, and today we're going to be talking about Travis Boak. His 300th game. It's Boak Week. Boak 300 is a massive celebration of what has been a marvellous career of Travis Boak and being a part of the Port Adelaide Football Club. And today we're going to kick off his celebration week, regardless of all the circumstances that are happening at the moment with COVID and where we're going to play and who we're going to play. That question will answer itself, but I think he deserves the focus on what's been a magnificent career to date, and I'm sure plenty more games to come. But I want to dive in a little deeper than just showing a highlights package and, really trying to celebrate what he's done on the field. But I think what makes him such a Port Adelaide legend is what he's done off the field, and there's countless amount of things that have been the reason why Port Adelaide chose Travis Boak in 2006 in the draft, and the way he's built himself over a magnificent career for 15 years now. It's definitely developed into a Port Adelaide legend. But I want to ask the question today, why Travis Boak is such a legend of the Port Adelaide Football Club. And we're going to answer that through a little bit of history as we go back, look in the archives and see why Travis Boak is a legend. I'm not talking about the countless amount of All-Australians. I'm not talking about the two-time best and fairest he's won. I'm not talking about the great goals or his on-field captaincy, which made him, and always will be to me, the Port Adelaide captain of the modern era. After Dom Cassisi, he took over in 2013, and Ollie Wines and Tom Jonas had their stint as co-captains, and then we went into Tom Jonas. But I want to talk about the moment in 2012 where his career was at a crossroads. Port Adelaide were in its darkest hour. This was a time when we were not even able to beat GWS. We were struggling as a club. There was no real hope. There was no real direction. Matthew Primus was coach, and something had to change, or the doors were going to close at Alberton with the massive debt we had towards the AFL and so many bigger problems that were happening within the club and the administration and off the field and on the field. As I said, we weren't performing to the best of standards. We had some talent. We had some great moments, little hopes and dreams along the way, but a lot rested on the shoulders of our star player, Travis Boak. He was the main marquee player, and in 2012 he was out of contract. He was having a struggling season with a little bit of niggle injuries. He wasn't doing great. I remember the one game he played against the Gold Coast Suns in round 9. This was in the 3-game stretch. We won 3 in a row, and a little bit of hope was coming Port Adelaide's way. And we beat the Gold Coast by 50 points up at the Gold Coast. He had 30 disposals and kicked 3 goals. It was then that it was starting to build momentum towards he might actually leave Port Adelaide, and he was being chased heavily. We know about the whole facade of Geelong rocking up unannounced to his doorstep.
Geelong has made a massive power play to lure Port Adelaide vice-captain Travis Boak away from Alberton. Coach Chris Scott, captain Joel Selwood and Brownlow medalist Jimmy Bartell flew to Adelaide this afternoon in an attempt to convince the young Port midfielder his future lies with the Cats.
Trying to chase him, they came to Adelaide with a full-on parade of people. They had Chris Scott, you had Joel Selwood and a couple of other boys come over. They were trying to persuade him. They're having coffee dates, and the decision was on the line. He had a lot to play for in his contract. Obviously, staying loyal. And there was the choice then. A lot of players would have taken the opportunity. Then free agency wasn't around then, but it was building as that type of scenario, and it got to a point where the pressure was so big and so influential on both parties that it was one of the biggest stories of 2012. His contract was so massive, and if we didn't get him to sign, it was so important for Port Adelaide to have his signature, to keep him, because he was a foundation player. He was someone you could build your club around, and at a time when you go into 2013, there was no real captain, and we were looking pretty dire. There was no real leadership. We had Keith Thomas coming to the club. No one wanted to coach Port Adelaide. Ken Inkley wasn't even the first, second, third or fifth choice. And then you had David Koch, who came into the scenario in 2013. Our presidency went up in flames, and he came across, and the club was in turmoil. And this is why his signature was so important. And it got to a point where if he didn't sign, I think the club were going to be on their knees. They had nothing to base around. It was so hard. This is how dire it was. It was really tough, as a supporter. We all wanted him to stay, and we were hoping he was going to stay. And it always felt like he was going to leave because that's what the players around that time were doing. And then the day came. The day came where news started to bubble. And it was really late in the season. And it was actually getting to the point where it was during finals, I think, or just before finals. And everyone was saying Port Adelaide's season was done. There was no hope for him signing. And usually when the season's done and they haven't signed a contract, he was going up for trade within a month and he was going to end up at Geelong. And then the day came. Travis Boak signs for Port Adelaide. This is why it makes Travis Boak such a legend of Port Adelaide. Because his commitment, his dedication to this club, what he's done from that point on. He was a great young player from when he came to the club in the draft period and built his seasons each year. He was a two-time best and fairest winner, one in 2019, one in 2010, joint with Jackson Trengove, who his commitment in 2011 was the foundation for other players to sign on and commit to the club and go long-term. And you can see as soon as Travis Boak signed, the club was ready. That was the next step. He was announced as captain in 2013. His foundation's built. He was a two-time All-Australian during that period, and then we got to 2020, becomes a three-time All-Australian. Became captain of the club with Keith Thomas and David Koch. This is the new direction that Port Adelaide were heading in. The succession plan was ready. Ken Hinkley was the coach, Travis Boak was the captain, and this was the future. We all know the history after that. 2013 final series, one of the best seasons, as a Port fan, I think, in terms of enjoyment and no expectations and just loving footy. 2014 making it to a heartbreaking prelim, playing as arguably one of the best teams in the comp. And then ever since, he's just continued to build. His captaincy was enormous in the periods of time where it was tough. But Travis Boak signing off-field provided the opportunity for Port Adelaide to set the standard for other players internally, but also trying to poach other players from other clubs and making Port Adelaide a destination club. And ever since 2014 onwards, we've become a destination club. We've got the keys. We've got Angus Monfries to come. We've got Paddy Ryder to come. We've got Charlie Dixon to come. You look at, now Motlop, Rockcliffe, and then even, Orazio Fantasia rocks up. And just each year we've been able to add to our list. And what Travis Boak has done, he's been a key part in all of these signings. He was obviously captain, so all the early stages, Paddy Ryder, Dixon, Monfries, etc., they coming to the club. He was very important in that. And then even Orazio, he knows Orazio, and they all were able to link to Travis Boak. And we know the praise that he gets from internally, externally. He doesn't get enough recognition around the AFL as one of the better midfielders in the comp. But to play 300 games after everything that's happened during his career and what he started with and the troubles that he's had off the field, and then to come to a point where he could have gone home. He could have been with his family. He could have been a part of Geelong's success, and he could have been so much more and probably would have got more recognition. But he turned it away because he wanted to stay loyal. And he's a loyal legend. He's a key part of Port Adelaide. And he's the reason why he inspires so many people from the club, internally, fans, including myself. And it's an emotional time because he's such a legend of Port Adelaide. And we know what he's been through. We know what he's been able to achieve on and off the field. And it's amazing to be able to witness Travis Boak reach 300 games after what him and the club have been through together, and that's what makes him such a modern day legend of Port Adelaide. He'll go down as one of the greats of the club. I so hope he gets what he deserves with the Premiership Cup at the end of his career. I hope you enjoyed this video, Port fans. Let me know in the comments below your main reason for loving Travis Boak. Tell me some of the highlights that you've enjoyed from him on and off the field, personal experiences. It would be really great to hear those, and I look forward to celebrating with another video tomorrow about Travis Boak. But until then, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide, Travis Boak and AFL content coming your way. Plenty of updates still to come, so make sure you're following myself on social media and keeping a close eye on when this game will be. But until then, let's celebrate a legend, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. My name's Anthony, and as always, can't boat you.